Welcome to the introduction to the Mobile Operator Child Impact Assessment Tool, MO-CRIA, and the consultation, which is starting today. With me, I have here Milka Pietikäinen from Millicom. She's Vice President Sustainability. I have also Jenny Jones, who is Director Public Policy from GSMA, and myself, Eija Hietavo, CSR Manager at UNICEF CSR Unit. So what are we going to do today is we're just going to speak a bit about the children's rights overall, children's rights and business, and then look at the tool which is available. And Millicom has kindly offered to share their experiences of actually using the tool, and so Milka will be finishing off this session. So may I pass the floor to Jenny, who is going to first say a few words.
Thank you, Eija. So the GSMA began supporting its members on issues relating to children and mobile technology back in 2006. And over the last few years, we've been working closely with our colleagues at UNICEF, including Eija, and they have taught us to always keep in mind the promises made to children in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Mobile technology and the internet can, of course, be great enablers of human rights. For growing numbers of young people across the globe, mobile technology is an increasingly important tool for communicating, accessing information and entertainment, learning and upskilling, playing and being creative. Through the GSMA M-Youth program, we work with our members to promote these opportunities, whilst also developing strategies to mitigate potential risks and encourage the safe and responsible use of mobiles and the internet. Mobile operator members of the GSMA Mobile Alliance Against Child Sexual Abuse content work actively to combat the misuse of mobile services to exploit children. This is achieved through collaboration, both with each other and with external partners, and through information sharing, advocacy, and technical measures. The MO-CRIA tool has been developed in this same spirit of promoting opportunities and mitigating risks. Its aim is to provide the mobile operator community with a way of assessing the many and varied impacts of their business operations on children. It's already been given a pilot run by Millicom and UNICEF, who will shortly give an overview of the tool itself. But on behalf of the GSMA, I warmly encourage all our members to take part in the consultation and share their feedback with our partners at UNICEF. This will enable UNICEF to make the MO-CRIA tool as useful and user-friendly as possible for the long-term benefits both of our industry and of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. So I'm going to say a few words now about the work that UNICEF does in the business and children's rights area, for those of you who are not familiar with this work. So basically, the UNICEF Children's Rights and Business Unit was founded 4 years ago, at the same time when the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights were introduced. And parallel to that process, UNICEF, Save the Children and UN Global Compact developed also a set of principles which tie into the UN Guiding Principles, and this set of principles is called the Children's Rights and Business Principles. So this is a tool for businesses to use in integration of children's rights into their policies, processes, and operations. We also work with the governments in order to ensure that when the UN Guiding Principles are formed into legislation, children's rights would be considered in this area as well. And we have the Convention of the Rights of the Child and the General Comment 16, which plays into that role. So we've been working now on the children's rights and business principles for a couple of years, and more understood that it is very important to work with specific industries on specific issues, because the businesses are very, very different depending on the regions where they operate, as well as the industries that they come from. Within the ICT industry, it has been our pleasure to work with GSMA for 2 years already, and industry leaders like Millicom, to actually, from the ground level, to start assessing and looking at the impacts that businesses and mobile operators have on children, which are often very positive, but there are also challenges. So it's a combination of things. So talking about the tool that we have now developed and which is in consultation, the Mobile Operator Child Rights Impact Assessment. So the roots of this tool are in a set of principle tools that UNICEF developed after the launch of these principles. There was a tool which was specifically targeting impact assessments in the broader framework of human rights impact assessments, bringing in the child-specific aspects. So what we have done is we have taken this original framework and we started working with Millicom in order to tailor it towards something that would be meaningful and very targeted and tailored for a telecommunications company. We, instead of looking at it from the principles perspective of different aspects, workplace, marketplace, and community, we really looked at the organizational structure of a company and the different departments. And it's been structured around 6 different departments for which there are questionnaires, or sets of questions that have been targeted to each of these groups. And these questions, they are also explained, and the user is guided within the tool to understand what kind of issues we're talking about if some of these topics are new. So basically, the tool consists of 2 main elements. There's an Excel spreadsheet, which is the questionnaire, and there is a PDF document which provides guidance to all the questions, and it also provides the overall guidance to how to use the tool. So if we look at it in more detail, you will see in this picture, you will see some examples of questions. So in each of the folders of questions which are targeting specific function of the organization, you will see questions like, would you have a policy on safeguarding children, something as an example, or would you have a policy on child labor? And there's a baseline expectation what a company should have. And in the next column, you will see what the baseline expectation is. And so when a company goes through this questionnaire, it looks at the question, it looks at the baseline expectation, and whether it fulfills the criteria. And if it does, it says yes, and moves on to see whether it actually goes beyond the baseline expectation to something which is already good practice in the column which says further action. So basically there are 2 levels. There's the base level and the level where you go beyond the basic expectation. And by filling in this information within the tool, you will see that the columns will change color based on whether you actually fulfill the criteria or you don't. And all this information is being gathered while you fill this in. And the intention and idea is that you will also document here the basis why you said yes or you said no. So basically providing evidence and recording the status of the items. It is also possible to add an additional element to the tool, which is the risk level. So you can assess certain criteria to be more risky, more important, and certain less so. But this is optional and really depends on how a company wants to use it. And just to say about the tool overall, it is very flexible. So if, for instance, a company already has a framework for human rights impact assessments, it is very easy to extract certain questions from this tool and incorporate those into the broader framework if a layered approach is not what is required. In the next slide, we will see what happens then. So when you fill in the information into the tool, you go through the different sections and answer yes or no and explain why this is and how you fulfill the criteria. The tool automatically collects this information and it will showcase you in green when you are compliant, when you've actually fulfilled the criteria, and in red where there are gaps in the criteria. So this is also quite useful. You will immediately be able to see how you're performing against yourself in this, and with time and when you actually start taking action on some of these areas, you will see your improvement with the tool as well. So basically, this was all I wanted to say about the tool. We have the tools, both elements of the tool. They are available on the UNICEF website. So the UNICEF website is it's www.unicef.org/CSR, and you will find there a section which is specifically for children's rights and internet. And the tools are in the tools section. There are 4 different sections there. So you will also find a feedback form there, which will enable you to write or answer the specific questions that we're asking you. And we would very much appreciate feedback, which should be sent to the csr@unicef.org account. And if you are interested in actually piloting the tool, at a country level or something like that, please contact the UNICEF CSR team in Geneva, and we will support you in this process during the consultation period. The consultation will end on March 18th, and we hope to have the finalized tool available at the end of March. I will now give the floor to Milka to talk a bit about their experiences and why they started with the child rights impact assessments.
Thank you, Eija. I'll be happy to discuss our journey into starting to look at our child rights impacts, which very much started at Millicom from a very, I would say, traditional place for a lot of companies, which was a concern over child labor. We operate in emerging markets, sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, where the inherent risk of child labor is high in the markets where we are. As well as issues around rule of law and enforcement of existing laws, which is compounding the risk in the environment. At the same time, given the nature of these markets and how we sell our services, we also have this child labor risk not only in the supply chain, like for other many ICT companies in the manufacturing of electronics, but also in the distribution side. We have over 700,000 points of sale, where we sell our customers interact almost daily to buy top-up cards for their prepaid services. At the same time, when we embarked on this journey about 3 years ago, the company was also quite decentralized, so there was some concerns over whether global policies were being applied in an aligned fashion also in the operating markets. And of course, for all companies, child labor is a big reputational issue, and we knew that some of our peer companies operating in similar markets had issues around child labor. So there were many drivers for us to start looking into child labor. But then on the following slide, when we then contacted UNICEF to get some expertise from them to help us to look into this issue, they proposed that we would take a wider look at child rights, not only focusing on child labor, but really look at the 10 principles in children's rights and business principles that had just then been launched. For us, that seemed to make a lot of sense, and so we embarked upon a long journey of the first child rights assessment and agreed to do a pilot of the impacts assessment tool, the checklist that UNICEF had in place at that point. That consisted of a desk-based research and then also an on-site assessment in one of our operations. Then looking at in more detail, this, as I said, it was very much a deep dive, so the whole process lasted over 6 months. We engaged an external consultant, DNVGL, who helped us with the assessment. So the focus was still in the downstream, the distribution network, and our concern over child labor in the distribution. But I think one important note to companies who are considering doing child rights assessments was that we were able to do, at the same time as this assessment, we in parallel did a SA 8000 labor standards assessment at the same time. So these are very compatible assessments to do. So I said there was first a desk-based research on what are the telecom specific child rights issues, and based on this, then the consultants had interviews with personnel both in the global offices as well as the local office in the DRC, which was our assessment country, on what kind of policies and controls are in place. The consultants discuss with our freelancers and agents, who are the people who sell the services to our customers, with NGOs, many child rights organizations. I think there were over 20 organizations that were consulted in the DRC. They talked to our peer companies and international agencies, diplomatic missions, etc. And as well as then traveled extensively in the country, making observations. So then, in terms of the results, which were both comforting and surprising to us, there were a lot of good news that the assessment revealed that we had good controls in place in terms of age verification, both in the distribution space, but also in the supply chain, and the observations did not find any evidence of child labor, and this was also corroborated by the interviews of the NGOs, who said that the multinational companies like Tigo and Millicom are not part of the bigger problem around child labor. However, there was some clear recommendations around looking at our policies and clarifying our policies for the country and global level on age limits for specific job roles, etc. So this is something we have done since. But I think one of the really the biggest finding for us, and which is why we would really encourage our peer companies to look into child rights in our sector and also in other sectors, is that we found many other ways that our company, by the virtue of its business, affects children's rights. Just to give some examples, we employ a lot of security services to guard base station sites, or our shops, for example. We didn't have any guidance specifically on how these security agents would deal with underage intruders. We were already looking at electronic waste and how to manage that in these countries, and it was highlighted in the assessment that children may get involved in taking apart electronics and may be exposed to hazardous substances. There may be child labor in this as well. The assessment has encouraged us to look at family-related policies, since these indirectly affect children of employees who are parents. We have also got the learning of looking into the actual base station towers, so these big steel structures, from the moment they are being constructed, making sure that these construction sites are properly fenced so that children don't wander into these dangerous places, and also the siting of the base stations. We need to be mindful that they are not next to places that children frequent, for example, schools, because these are very exciting looking steel structures that you could climb, and that can be very, very dangerous and have dangerous equipment on them. So again, making sure that these are properly secured and not in places where children would be likely to go. We also had recommendations around our social investment programs and how we should really look at these different risks that were found around child rights and try to align our social investment programs to address these risks. And then obviously one area that is very key to any company that provides access to internet and communication services is protecting and empowering children online. So this was a very long and also expensive process, and I think the findings also clarified to us that there was a need of having a more sector-specific approach for us to be able to really focus on the gaps and opportunities in around these material issues that were identified. We would really need a more sector-specific tool, which really brings us to the tool that we are launching for consultation here today. And this is we have piloted this specific tool for the sector in 2 of our markets last year, and it has really helps us to immediately focus on those gaps and identifying the opportunities that our companies can have in promoting child rights. And I would really encourage all of our peer companies to have a look at the tool, think about their operating context, which may be quite different from ours, and seeing if there are any issues that we haven't taken into consideration, or some that would be less relevant and I hope that together we can make the telecom sector a leader in addressing child rights. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Milka. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, everybody.